Hi, everyone. A very good evening. And to those of us joining us from different parts of the world, a very, very good morning to you all. First of all, thank you for taking out time to join us today. And as you know, we are representing Empower T1D. And as part of Empower T1D, we have monthly sessions with leading clinicians as well as people living with type 1. And what we endeavor to do is to share information with the community at large. We also empower our people living with type 1 to come up for these sessions and share their experiences. So, as we all know, part of care for type 1, how can we make it more connected? When we hear people living with the same condition, when we have lived experiences, lived voices who come up and share, it makes the whole circle very holistic and the care is more complete. So, just as our name Empower stands for empowering people living with type 1, we have two very inspiring T1D advocates with us today on this panel. With this, I give a very, very warm welcome to Meredith from USA and Lakshmi Narayan from India. We are going to have an amazing session. We are going to hear about them, their life stories, and how they have converted their diagnosis to a powerful connect. And with that, I'd like to introduce Miss Meredith. She's a loneliness and social isolation subject matter expert. And if we don't understand what it really means, don't worry, we are going to wait for her to share what it all stands for. But more than anything, she's a person living with type 1 diabetes since 1996. So Meredith has over maybe 29 years of experience living with type 1. And she also has around 25 years of experience working with healthcare in US. Meredith is a social engagement trainer, master trainer, and we're going to hear from her, her story, her diagnosis, what is the range of emotions that she went through after her diagnosis, how she has converted this chronic condition into an amazing leadership role. She is today certified in leadership and organizing in action by the reputed Harvard Business School of Executive Education and in innovation and social impact from University of Southern California. Without taking too much time, I hand over to Ms. Meredith and let her share her personal story.
Thank you so much, Riddhi. It's just such an honor to be here with you all. And we're going to kick right into our time together this morning with a short video. And before we play that video, I would like each of you to just really listen and reflect as if type 1 diabetes was layered on top of each one of these individuals speaking. And if you would be willing to enter into chat the emotion that you feel when you listen to this video, and then we'll go into our time together after the video. It's about 5 minutes.
I feel loneliness in my chest.
Just a heavy weight on your back.
My career has isolated me.
I don't have a partner. I don't have kids.
Right after I got married, people just fell away.
As a single parent,
then I retired.
My greatest fear is dying alone.
It's a doozy loneliness. It's a bad one.
The feelings of loneliness and isolation that I feel stem from losing my dad to suicide at 12 years old.
I feel like I've always felt lonely. What did I do to run everybody else away? I feel like something that makes people scatter.
I feel like if I don't try to be successful, I'll always regret not having tried. My loneliness ends up kind of being my punishment.
Does everybody feel like this? There must be something wrong with me.
You're surrounded by people, but yet you're still feeling like you're not even around anybody.
I'm at this wedding and, kind of like on reflex, I open up my phone, I pull up a dating app and I start swiping, and then I look around and there's just like so many people around me laughing and having a good time, just being loving with each other. Yeah, it was a moment of like feeling deep loneliness.
You might try to do everything possible to find a life partner, but you might be single forever.
People cannot imagine that you'd be so lonely, that you would dread Thanksgiving and thinking like, gosh, I hope somebody invites me.
As a single parent, I feel like it's the most important and biggest thing I will ever do in life, and I just keep it to myself because there's no one to share it with.
I decided deliberately not to have children while all my close friends decided the opposite. And as they were focusing more and more of their time on family life, I became deprioritized.
I would have never told you that I would work this many hours as I do, and I wouldn't have a group of friends surrounding me.
When my spouse comes home and she just kind of goes off into her corner, and she's the first person I want to talk to, and I'm the last person she wants to talk to.
I've been a single mom for almost 14 years. And I just sometimes feel like I want someone to reach out to me and take care of me.
Friends don't want to hear about how lonely I am.
It's just too much burden to put on.
You don't want to add to their burden
on other people.
I've been trying to go to lunch with a colleague of mine on my campus for 8 years, and it still hasn't happened.
I thought I was building a family that was going to be close and connected and doing things together, and that hasn't happened.
I was important, right? I mattered to people. I thought I did. And then I retired, and the isolation was deafening.
I was diagnosed with a very rare bone marrow cancer. I have had certain friends and family disappear from my life. Such a deep disappointment over those who abandon you.
The experience of cross-dressing and keeping it secret marked me with loneliness during my entire life.
You look at the time and you go, it's 3 o'clock, and you have so much of your day, and the phone doesn't ring. No one's connecting with you, and you wonder how you can make the day go by. For retirement, they used to tell you it's the golden years. Well, how can it be golden if there's no one in it?
I start to feel as if this is my punishment for not having children. And I think when you see Ellen, in a sense, I find myself saying, you asked for it.
And she said, Bob, we've been married for 66 years, and we have so much to say to each other. Do you suppose other people married this long have so much to talk about? And the next night, she was gone.
Try to remember to pick up the phone. You have no idea how that unexpected phone call can change their day.
It's the children saying, Dad, I love you, and how are you? And it's also a good friend saying, Bob, I don't like the sound of your voice. I'm coming over. We're going to talk.
If I can get myself to pick up the phone and call somebody, somebody else will say, you know, I'm feeling exactly the same way. And then, poof, you're part of the human race again.
Thank you. I think it's just always to start in conversations like these with the story, with the emotion of the experience of these individuals. And you can see that it happens through all ages and stages for all types of people. And so if you were to layer type 1 diabetes and the stresses that that chronic condition brings to our lives, the complexities, the intensity, I can only imagine that it just magnifies those feelings that we saw in the video. So if you don't mind, each of you just taking 30 seconds to just close your eyes for a minute and take a deep breath. Just breathe in connection and relaxation in our time together. You're near the end of your day. Breathe out stress, breathe out disconnection. And just recognize the privilege that each of us have to connect right here in these moments in our next hour together. I'm gonna just get my slide shared here real quick, and let's shift that emotion from one of, I saw hopelessness, sadness, into something more hopeful, something more positive, looking towards a future of better connection. Thank you, Rudy, so much for the detailed introduction. I think the only thing that I'll add on to that is the picture that you see here when it was mentioned that I'm a social engagement master trainer and facilitator. This is what that looks like. So this is an evocative conversation circle where we are in conversation as a facilitator, myself or other trained leaders lead a conversation that's really very intentionally and mindfully designed to give people a platform to elevate themselves and have their voices heard in a safe physical and psychological space together. And it's been such an honor, definitely the most enjoyable thing that I've done in my career in 25 years here in the US, to be able to be trusted to lead those conversations. Ultimately, the goal of that is to connect these individuals in the circle so that regardless of whether there is a circle happening or not, they will stay connected and they will continue to care for each other through the relationships that they have formed. In our time together, a pretty short time, we saw the lifespan of loneliness. We're going to also just briefly brush over some of the characteristics of connection, the impact of social health, the scale and prevalence, the impact on physical health, mental health, and look forward to a more connected and hopeful future. Just a few things that I want to intentionally call out. I am not a clinician by trade, and so this is not intended to serve as medical advice. And really, in the short time, it's not going to be a real deep dive into the topic at hand. There are many resources to do exactly that, but really what I want to bring out is reflection and inspiration, and ultimately bestowing each of you with the title of a future connection ambassador. We all have it in us, and really give you a sense of agency to feel empowered to take power over our health by using connection. I live, work, and receive healthcare primarily in the US, and so you'll hear that my experiences are grounded in that. Any alterations or representations different than what I know here in my own country and what I've studied is definitely not intentionally exclusionary. So I ask for your good graces in that, and I trust that you all will give that today. Thank you. I have partnered with Copilot AI today in this presentation. I'm loving getting to know AI. I think we all hear that it has benefits and downsides, but it was kind of fun to have that creation partner. So I just want to give credit where credit is due. So let's dive right in and kind of frame this in a problem and goal type mindset and talk about some of the specific characteristics. So if the problem is that disconnection currently has power over our health, disconnection, right now it's holding the power. And disconnection, when you hear me talk about that, is loneliness and social isolation. So loneliness is a subjective experience. It's something that we feel ourselves. And we perceive, if we perceive ourselves to be lonely, we feel like we would like to have more individuals in our lives than we actually have. Social isolation, conversely, is objective, and it actually has measurable factors like how many relationships do we have? What are our social roles? What kind of groups do we belong to? How frequent or infrequent are our social interactions? So in our time forward, really think about and know that those two things are separate and distinct, and I'll be couching those as disconnections. So goals then are to allow social connection to give us power over our health. So when we think about that, there are three vital components of connection. The first one is structure. So if you think about the relationships in your life or in other people's lives, these three things we really need for it to be a positive relationship. It has to have structure around it. So this includes the number and types of relationships we have. We have life partners, we have friends, we have mentors, we have leaders, we have faith leaders, we have children, we have family roles. So think about relationships in terms of variety and structure. Secondly is function, and that's the degree to what those relationships serve for us and the needs that we have. We can't look to one person to serve all of the needs that we have as humans, and so it takes a variety to serve those and function for us for different needs in those relationships. And then thirdly is quality. We all have life experience where we know that inherently there will be some relationships that are very life-giving and other relationships that may tend to drain us energetically a little bit. So also keep that in mind. So again, a goal of relationships to have all three of these vital components. Also, a goal of connection is whole person health. So historically, we think a lot about the importance of physical and mental health, right? We see that all over the place. Without mental health, we can't have physical health. What I would challenge each of you to take on and really think about with whole person health is that social health is just as integral. So the combination of physical health, mental health, and social health, the focus, physical health, we're taking care of our bodies. Mental health, we're taking care of our minds. And social health, we're having intentionality and mindfulness around the relationships in our lives. So just a point of reflection, and I don't know if anyone wants to come off, maybe share 30 seconds. If when you were imagining type 1 diabetes layered on to those individuals in the video, what came to mind for you? What might be the impact of that? Does anyone want to share? So I'll just volunteer for myself. I lived in rural America right before I was diagnosed. And upon my diagnosis, which I was in severe ketoacidosis, and my diabetes educators told me probably one more day and I would have landed in multi-organ failure. I was way far along in the trajectory, and I was 20 years old. So what that meant for me, I moved to the city of Denver right at the same time I was being diagnosed. So my friends and my family were geographically separated from me. At the same time, I was acquiring this life-altering chronic condition. And so I personally chose to isolate because I didn't want to be the burden. I didn't want my friends to worry about me. I didn't have friends yet in Denver. I didn't put myself out there to find groups and to find friends. And so if you think about all the complexities of just managing type 1, and then you add the heaviness of being disconnected, these health outcomes that I'm about to talk about, I can, again, only imagine because there's not yet data specifically for type 1 diabetes and disconnection, but these physical impacts, you can imagine how they would only be magnified if you layer on type 1 to that. So why does this matter? It is now at epidemic levels. Wherever you are in the world, I just got off of a launch by the World Health Organization for their flagship report on social isolation and loneliness. I'll share the links for those after my time. And they just announced that 1 in 6 people worldwide are impacted by disconnection. So this is all age groups and all regions of the world. 25% of older people are socially isolated. So again, thinking about the difference between social isolation and loneliness, it tends to be that older people are more socially isolated, where adolescents are more likely to experience loneliness and feel like they would like more friends in their lives, or like they're the only ones and not have support around them. And social isolation and loneliness rates in low middle income countries are comparable or higher than in high income countries. So again, we're at epidemic levels with this. And the impact that is having on physical health, what is already known is that you have a 25% increase in the risk of early death if you experience disconnection, and both stroke and cardiovascular disease, up to a 30% increase in risk. So be thinking about what surprises you about this, and I would be interested to hear that as we go on, if we have time for dialogue and interaction. Thinking then about the impact of disconnection on mental health, with dementia specifically, there's up to a 50% increase in the risk of developing dementia, and the cognitive abilities decline 20% faster among those who report loneliness. And I do want to acknowledge that this was a US study, and depression and anxiety increase the risk of both of those. So really what my call to action today is just for each of us to start. We have a role to play in connection, each one of us. And when we think about how social connection influences health, here is how it happens. It's through these 3 principal pathways. Again, these are called out, you can see from the citations on the bottom of the slide, from the US Surgeon General's advisory on loneliness and isolation. However, this is not geographically based information. According to what I just heard on the World Health Organization conversation, this is really structural to the worldwide epidemic that we have. So you think about what contributes those pathways. You have the biological processes, so thinking about stress hormones and inflammation and cortisol and gene expression. You think about the psychology piece of disconnection. Do people feel like they have meaning and feel like they have a purpose, like they're heard and seen? How are they managing stress? Do they feel safe? Do they exhibit resilience? Do they have hopefulness, or are they feeling hopeless? And then behaviors that we all take on, our physical activity, our nutrition, sleep, smoking, the treatments we pursue, all of those things contribute to our overall health. So thinking about those outcomes, those health outcomes like heart disease, stroke, increased risk of type 2 diabetes, morbidity, premature mortality. It just is far reaching. So each of us have it in us to just start by doing something. I put together just a few things here that we know from our research over the last couple years, especially coming out of COVID. But this is a new problem that's just being elevated really in the last few years. And so we're learning more and more the more we go on. And I'm so excited to be able to share the link to that flagship report that the World Health Organization just launched, because it really breaks it down into actionable steps and opportunities that we all have. But just before having a chance to look at that, these are some of the things that I would call each of us to be mindful of. So those of us with type 1 diabetes, let our care partners know if we're feeling lonely or socially isolated, just to open up that conversation. It's highly likely that they won't have a suggestion, they won't have an offering for you, but it's important for them to know so that they understand that's something that you're experiencing. Be aware of community resources. Seek this out yourself. Seek out those opportunities like Empower T1D to engage with others that can relate to us and others in diverse circles. That's something in our conversation circles that has been so beautiful, is the connection that you can realize when you have diverse participants and you recognize just how connected we are through our life experience, which really puts a blinder up to diversity. You're more focused on those shared experiences we have, the shared emotions, the shared accomplishments, and not focusing things that polarize us as a society. Social media, really be intentional about limiting time unless you're using it to connect personally with someone that you enjoy interacting with. There's a lot of focus in this, in the flagship report and in prior guidance, that really calls out the impact that social media has had on loneliness, especially with our young people. Check in. It's simple. Just call someone and ask how they're doing. And again, think about those who tend to make you feel more positive, feel more supported. Have conversations. It takes courage to start conversations, especially with people that you don't know. It can feel awkward, but in our circles, I've really learned, we see time and time again, people like to talk about themselves when they're asked. And so those conversation starters, just get curious about people, ask them about themselves and see where those conversations take you. And always close the loop and let your care partners know what you're choosing to do, what they've asked you to do that's working or not working. Just keeping in communication will help us collectively understand what we can do together that's positive and giving us the power to take control of our health by further connecting. And then lastly, for care partners, so important. And I encourage you to really follow the link that I'll share to this flagship report. We have to start by educating and raising awareness to help reduce the stigma of this. It's so widespread. Many of us experience it. We have to elevate that it's an issue. Community resources. Same as us living with type 1 diabetes. Consider partnering with AI like I did with this presentation to ask, what are the community resources that will help the people in my community connect and provide a resource to your patients to encourage that social health. with social media, just calling out and encouraging your patients to really be intentional about the online activities that they're engaging in, and prioritizing those that are productive and positive, like this group right here. Check in. The screening, the official screening and measurement processes are still a little loose. There are a lot of screening tools out there, like the UCLA loneliness scale, many other tools, but because it's hitting the environment fairly recently, a lot of those suggested protocols aren't yet in place. So at a minimum, just asking your patients if they're feeling lonely or if they have the opportunity to connect with others and how often they get to do that. Just like us with type 1 diabetes, conversations. Start a conversation, especially with strangers. That's something that our societies and the world needs to get better at, is opening a warmness to talking to people again. And then lastly, really thinking about advocating. So for example, the Indian Council of Medical Research, as more and more medical standards for treatment come into place, just think about how you can advocate with those organizations and entities to very explicitly focus on the social health domain and those medical standards of care. And here it is, what I've been talking about. So in closing, this was just launched today, such an inspirational hour-and-a-half worth of time with the collective of thought leaders and committers. World Health Organization, their Commission on Social Connection, this flagship report. One of the things they called out, the 4 priorities: elevating disconnection as a public health priority, coordinating cross-sector to create environments that encourage connection, like built environments. What kind of sidewalks do we have? Do we have friendship benches? What do our cities and what do the places where we live look like? Is it encouraging connection? Invest in what works, especially with vulnerable populations, and just value social connection in our own everyday lives so that we're modeling that for others. That's one of the big key takeaways, an example of what you'll see in this flagship report. They talk about promising interventions, and they did also call out that data is really lacking right now, again, because it's so new. There are more interventions that are showing to be promising on an individual one-on-one basis than on a community-wide basis, but all of that is progressing, and they're really encouraging researchers and analysts to be mindful about collecting that data. That's something that we have done with our group conversation program, and it has shown to increase feelings of happiness, decrease feelings of social isolation, and just feeling part of a community. So just wanted to be sure to include that information. And again, I'll share that in chat. And sorry, Riddy did inform me that because of the structure of this meeting, it's not, you don't have the ability to share in chat, but in leaving, just think about an action that you will start today to further connect. And you and I, each of us, let's stay connected. I will also put the link to my LinkedIn profile in chat so you can access that. And my email is mjkoob@outlook.com. If you want to dive deeper, if you'd like to have a presentation that really dives into this as a whole, let me know. This is my heart's work. I really enjoy doing the work. It brings joy to me. Others tell us it brings joy to them. And I just want to thank Rudy, thank you for the invitation to be here today. And each one of you, remember, I have bestowed you with the prestigious title of Connection Champion. You're going to be it if you aren't already. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Meredith. This was really insightful. And we have heard that Type 1 champions can be change leaders. But today, you've really very well empowered everyone listening to this conversation. And you have bestowed upon them connection champions. So I'm sure they'll, be aiming to get there. And what I picked from the session was every person at the point when they get diagnosed, they go through their own journey. I know we can describe our own journey with different emotions, different feelings, but they all come under the umbrella of some sort of isolation, hopelessness, loneliness. At some point, we have all gone through it. All of us, even on this panel who live with this condition, have gone through it at some point. But also there is hope. And I think what you really, very beautifully shared, that these life experiences, these shared emotions are what take us to the next level. And I think the three important takeaways were the 3 C's, like how we need to check in, even if we check in on 2 more people in the community who are working with us, that will really go a long way. And never shy away from making conversations, whether it's people you know within the community or if they are complete strangers, whether you connect with them in person or on social media. It's important to keep the conversation going. It's very important to close the loop and also give feedback to our caretakers, how we can have a very connected care model. So I think it was really insightful, and thank you. With all your experience, you really made it easy for us to understand. I think we can all hope for a more connected future for us. And I'm sure we'll go over one more round of questions, and people are asking. So we will go over that. But for the time being, I'd like to invite Dr. Rutul, who's also joined us. He's one of our co-founders and a very inspiring doctor at our, backing us all the time with the community, for the community. And whenever we have a session, we just have to ask him, Dr. Rutul, will you be there with us? And he never turns us down. So thank you, Dr. Rutul, for taking out time. With that, I think we'll just let you say a few words and then move on to our next speaker, so that we can continue with the session. Can we have Dr. Purvi's introduction slides as well?
Actually, I could not hear Rutul. Did he say anything?
Am I audible now?
Yeah, now you are.
Yeah. So thank you very much. It's always pleasure to be here, though I'm not a person living with type 1 diabetes, but with Empower T1D team, I feel like I'm one of them. And it is so empowering all the time. And thank you very much, Meredith. It was wonderful explanation of social health, though we frequently listen about mental health and even physical health for T1D, but social health, which is one of the most important topic. Though due to this exhaustion of social media burden, still I feel that many of the people living with type 1 diabetes are socially cornered, and this is constantly we feel and believe. And even the person who is not living with type 1 diabetes, nowadays they feel that loneliness and such kind of thing we come across so commonly. But the person who is living with type 1 diabetes, it's really difficult job, and you are doing wonderful. And today, not wasting much time, we are going to launch one of the important campaign, that is Inject Anywhere, but we'll be talking about it later. And we have another wonderful doctor, Dr. Purvi Chawla, and we have Lakshmi, who is really an inspirational person. So we are looking forward to hear them. Thank you. Thank you, Riddhi.
Thank you, Dr. Rutul. Now with Dr. Purvi's introduction, I think everybody in the community knows her, but she's a leading consultant diabetologist from Mumbai. She's also the chair for Diabetes and Women Special Interest Group with Diabetes India. She's the founder and organizing chair with Diabetes Research and Solutions, and she has won so many awards. She's an inspiring person who is present in every room with a clear and loud voice, always vouching for connected care. So I won't take too much time. Over to you, Dr. Purvi Chawla. We are looking forward to hear you.
Thank you, Riddhi, for this very kind introduction and first of all, the invite. I think I'm learning from you all every day, and trust me, I get a lot of energy from just seeing how much work you guys are doing and how much you all are empowering everyone else. I think it's co-inspiring. So trust me, it's very, very mutually enriching, and I cannot be more thrilled to have had this opportunity. Once again, kudos to Dr. Banshi sir as well as Dr. Archana ma'am, who are, let's say, pioneers in this field. And we all kind of get our energy from them and our drive to do things more and more in this field from them. And this, under their leadership, I think is doing a very good job. And again, congratulations to Amit as well as to Rutul for carrying this flag forward. And Riddhi, you are incessant. So thank you. Meredith, wonderful presentation and a perfect start to today. The video was so overwhelming. And even though, we all seem to uh, have, developed that sort of perspective for empathy, or, just have that lens for understanding what goes on behind that facade, I think to actually hear people say all those things and to sort of add the layer of type 1 diabetes and dealing with that on top of it, can be very, very overwhelming and challenging for one and all. There's nobody who can say I'm so resilient that I'm completely inane or proof to just covered by no emotion, that I don't feel any of it. So I think we all have felt this at some point or the other, but also how we cope with it, how we come out, and how we emerge from it is really the power of connection that drives us out of all these situations. So with that, I think this topic has been I've been thinking about it since the time sort of Riddhi gave it to me to tackle, and I've just been really thinking about it, that how do we go forward with it? Because it's not a very structured one, but I think let's dive into it. I want to share some facts with you all. Meredith already did a lot on the loneliness front, and I feel empowered myself from her presentation, but let me talk about some other challenges also, and then we look at how we can deal with it. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is from this image, I wish this was a live, interactive session, but what is it that comes to your mind when you see this? I think, Riddhi, you can take a jab at it.
Yeah. So, of course, the mountain is really high and it seems almost impossible to climb it. And if we kind of relate that to our condition, like when a person gets diagnosed, they just feel like the whole world is crumbling and they don't know how they're going to get to the top of it. So, I'll pause there.
Amazing. So, here is a man who's seen sort of climbing, say, Mount Kilimanjaro, and, is now at the summit. But so many things could have gone through his or her mind while they were traversing this journey, right? A very, very difficult path and one of the world's tallest mountains in Africa. I think definitely a huge challenge. And I think most of us looking at it would have said, oh, how strong, amazing work, he's reached the top. But little do we reflect on immediately that it's not just about physical strength, right? Physical strength is just part of it. It's your mental strength or the mental stamina that actually takes you to summit. And I think every mountaineer in the world has said the same, that it's my mental strength that pushed me to reach the summit. It was never about just the physical strength. In the same way, we can draw this corollary from this, and we can say that it's not about blood sugars at all sometimes, right? We can never lose focus of blood sugars or blood glucose levels, but it's not about that. It's about the person. It's about an entire holistic perspective that we are treating the person and not the numbers or not the blood glucose levels. And I think each of us need to absolutely keep that in mind. There are lessons for each of us, healthcare providers, but there are equal lessons for each of you as well, to remember that you're far beyond those numbers alone. Next, please. So yes, and this image is again very telling of what it can feel like to live with type 1 diabetes. Just right at the time of diagnosis, or just the stress of managing the condition, bearing the cost of managing it. And we have to be thankful, all of us who can probably, afford to take care of it. But I think everyone else who cannot, we need to be there for them as well, and recognizing the fact that it's a sizable personal responsibility involved in managing the condition. It's not about somebody else doing it for you. It's definitely your own responsibility. So a wide range of psychological distress, including anxiety, fear, depression, stress, frustration, anger, and even denial exist when you are dealing with type 1 diabetes. And it's no surprise at all. So, especially over a longer duration of time, living with this condition, they're more likely to suffer from mental health issues, such as, but definitely not limited to burnout or distress, frequent mood changes, fluctuations, blood glucose fluctuations as well, low self-esteem, anger, depression, and even psychiatric disorders manifested as anxiety and depression. So these events tend to impact the quality of life and mechanisms of coping with the conditions of such individuals over a longer period of time, right? So we have to be mindful of that, whether you have been diagnosed in childhood, adolescence, or you are an adult living with type 1 diabetes. It impacts every aspect of life. The schedule and the routine of someone living with diabetes type 1, along with the family and people who care for them, can increase the stress levels to a point of a medical emergency also. And if things are not handled in time, then with care and compassion, then it can be an absolute disaster. Next, please. So, this is not just a talk, it's not a loose talk, and it's not just somebody's speculation. We have data to support what we are saying. And I think that data is very important because today we don't accept anything that's without, evidence or without a strong scientific evidence. So, and I have all these references compiled at the end of the presentation. So a systematic review, a large systematic review of 38 studies on the prevalence of mental health disorders in those living with type 1. It has been found that anxiety, especially phobias, and feeding and eating disorders seem to be most frequently reported struggles. In adolescents dealing with type 1 diabetes, impaired executive function and reduced quality of life have also been noted. Center for Disease Control and Prevention in the US has also looked into the prevalence of major depressive disorder. It's very commonly reported with type 1 diabetes, and the likelihood of someone suffering from it is double or even triple as those without diabetes. The mental distress from managing and living with diabetes, whether type 1 or type 2, impacts everything, including daily living and social experiences, collective leading to even higher blood glucose levels. And experiences of individuals living with diabetes and developing coping strategies to balance their lives is a less explored area of illness management. And that's why I appreciate such platforms and such groups where we have lived experiences being shared so that there can be better coping strategies, a better understanding of the challenges faced, and better practical management recommendations that can come. We have one such guideline from Canada on developing on mental challenges and then dealing with them or addressing them from Canada in 2023. And I think it's a very, very wonderful document that we could go through. Next, please. So with all this scientific background, these are real phrases from someone living with type 1 diabetes. This is not made up. I actually used Mentimeter to get all these reactions from those living with diabetes type 1 and see what I have got. This is real life. Okay, illness specific concerns, not knowing how to cope, mental health struggles, emotional pain, waiting for rescue, like you're trapped somewhere, no one to speak to, counseling not good enough for me. I just have a smiling facade, but there's a lot of mood instability. It's never been easy. Uphills, downward spirals. I mean, look at all the phrases that have come up. Isn't it really shocking? Maybe not to someone living with type 1 diabetes because they experience it themselves. Right? Next, please. So this is a type 1 person's perspective. Overall, I can just say it's too much to handle. And trust me, this has also been published. Next, please. So it's not loose talk, it's all evidence-based. But we have an entire team that we need because all this is not going to be one person's job or just somebody living with diabetes who has to live with it and bear it or struggle with it. A multidisciplinary team in place is required, and connecting with them is often something that can absolutely help you deal with it. So whether it's a clinician, counselor, therapist, mental health professional, social worker, they can help you address some of the challenges that you are facing and what you are feeling emotional about. They can rationalize it for you. They can suggest ways to cope with it. Sharing the real life subjective burden experienced by the person living with diabetes could be one step towards increasing awareness of the toll of mental health disorders on people living with type 1 diabetes. And that is the reason why we request, we urge people living with it to come up with and share their stories. So patient experience complemented by medically trained experts could pave the way for an effective two-way dialogue to manage the condition effectively, right? But we need that, we need to come a step forward, but you also need to come that step forward and we can meet somewhere in the middle, right? So there's no need to fear any of these people. They are there to support you. And they also need to understand from you what are you going through and how can they help you better, right? I often, it's not about insulin dose adjustments that the discussion is focused around when someone with type 1 comes to see me. It's always about how are you doing as a person, what is going on with your life, what are the challenges you're facing. And I always tell them that you know your blood glucose levels much better than I do. But if you are getting stuck somewhere, managing them better, I can certainly guide you, right? But you know it much better than I do. That's my absolute bottom line with anyone with type 1 diabetes that I see. Next, please. Now, I think this is the most important strategy because this comes from someone living with type 1 diabetes. Never to give up on oneself. This is the most important sort of lesson to or line to remember. Do not give up on yourself because everyone else can, only you should not. It's also about accepting, acknowledging, and living with a mindset shift. You need to take a step back from everything that's going on, just sort of re-energize, refuel for better future efficiency. Definitely take the time out. Incorporating me time is equally important. Spending time in reflective solitude, breaking the discipline schedule. If you've been too hard on yourself, there is a phrase that we use, diabetes disconnect. There's nothing wrong with that. Being just in touch with your healthcare provider, your caregiver, and you. You may want to socially withdraw also just to take the time to yourself, sort of plan, indulge in activities that you like to do, literally taking that time to focus on all your hobbies, some things that give you positive vibes or give you that energy to feel better, to, just not counting carbs sometimes, just going with your gut feeling, not being too harsh on yourselves, doing the things that you really like to do, spending time reading or, just indulging in physical activity, things that you don't get time to do otherwise, all that, and taking a social break, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, it's important. The next most important thing to do is self-talk. Positive reaffirmations, very, 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 very important. We all do it, we all need to do it, but we need to remind our people with type 1 diabetes that this is something, this is an ongoing strategy that you never should give up on. Talk to yourself, ask those questions that you need solutions to, see how you can manage things better even at your own end. Seeking professional help and counseling, never shy away from that. They are trained people and trained individuals to just guide you on the right track again if you have been off track. And little big lessons. Progress always, always, always better than perfection. Don't talk about, oh, my time in range is only 75%. Wow, it's a 75 to 80%. Don't look at that, oh, I'm still lacking that 20-25%. Look at what you have achieved rather than what is left to achieve, right? And be kind to yourself. You really don't need that to be harsh because the world will be. You don't need to do that to yourself. Next, please. and a diabetologist perspective, right? We are so lucky and fortunate that we get to have these rapports or long-term relationships with our people living with diabetes. And often or most of the times our focus is to reduce the burden of complications and look at it very objectively in terms of blood glycemic control. So we are looking at the quantity, like the longevity and also the quality of life and all that. But we cannot lose this, and this is for all the doctors who are logged in today. We cannot forget the constant burden of disease management and the toll it can take on one's mental health. So, I like that when a lot of senior physicians always say that keep one day, if you're doing a multi-practice, seeing type 2 as well as, obesity and this and that and type 1, then please either have type 1s coming at the end of your session so that you can spend abundance of time, or call them all on a separate day, which is completely dedicated to them. Okay, it would be unfair to actually just see them in that short appointment span. You need to have a separate time for them, dedicated to them, because they will only open up to you if you are willing to give them that time and that make that effort of understanding what's going on. So besides the physical health, screening for complications, mental health is also an important aspect that cannot be ignored from the it's not just the burden, there may be something organic going on, and that cannot be missed. So even though we are diabetologists, endocrinologists, physicians who are dealing with it, we may not be specifically trained mental health experts. We are clinicians who get to see people with diabetes very regularly. So we have that opportunity to ask them the right questions, listen to what they have to say, and then also note the changes that are happening in their lives so that we can successfully get them back on track. And even if we are not specifically aware of the mental health disorders, I think a high index of suspicion should be good enough to, in a non-judgmental environment, where we can have them share their thoughts and then even take the changes in physical health as important cues that can help us to screen them further for a mental health problem, or refer them to our psychiatrist colleagues so that they can also evaluate and manage them further. At such a visit, when you sense that there's something wrong other than just the blood glucose or the dyslipidemia or hypertension, it probably is not appropriate to bring up these values and throw it in the face. Probably it's okay to take a step back and focus only on the mental health issues or the struggles that the person is facing without taking too much heed on the metabolic parameters per se. Healing the brain and heart will be far better than actually, protecting them. So, one has to use a lot of discretion and move forward with that. Next, please. From a psychiatrist perspective, of course, I think knowing what is happening in each other's field is important, because today a lot of advances have taken place, not only in endocrinology and diabetology, but also on the psychiatric front. And we all need to be aware. So that crosstalk is important. Also, the fact that the psychiatrist is aware of the stress that a person living with diabetes can go through. So you need to probably refer to such colleagues who are more empathetic and who have that nerve in them to understand who you are referring them to. And then they need to be also mindful of the fact that every decision, every calorie intake, everything is scrutinized so closely that it really can throw a person off track. So all these consequences of living and managing type 1 diabetes can leave a lot of trauma, and they need to be able to deal with that or guide the person in a very objective manner towards the right kind of treatment that they may require. Sometimes it may just be counseling, sometimes it may be an organic disorder, because let's understand, I showed you the scientific evidence that anxiety, depression, and eating disorders are not uncommon with someone living with diabetes. Next, please. So it's my really honest request or urge that let's get rid of the stigma that exists with respect to diabetes, and particularly type 1 diabetes in the medical community itself. Right? We know that society is not sparing anyone, but at least let's very, very mindfully remove this from the medical community so that we can actually develop a third year and come up with objective solutions for those living with type 1 diabetes, and pat them on the back for all the progress they are making rather than punish them for what has not been achieved. Right? So let's remember, progress is better than perfection, and really let's have that lens or that empathetic perspective towards someone living with type 1 diabetes. Next, please. And with that, I just want to, you can again click on. So I just wanted one real life person scenario because we don't have time for any more, but I'll tell you how confusing this can get. So there's this 19-year-old female in the first year of college living with type 1 diabetes for the last 4 or 5 years, experiencing symptoms of loss of appetite, weight loss, persistent fatigue, spending most days in the room, not going to college, not hanging out with friends, not going out and not, experimenting with the different food that she used to like earlier, and feeling completely hopeless. In fact, so she's gone into a shell sort of situation, and parents are so worried that they don't want to leave her alone, thinking that, we don't know what's going on in her mind. This can be a very tricky situation because here we have an adolescent. Adolescents, we know the hormones are all over the place. Also, this person is in a transition, in a physiological transition, plus to layer type 1 diabetes on it can be very, very challenging. This person can also have relationship issues, can have academic struggles, 19, peak of academic pursuits, and can have those kind of struggles, can have struggles with relationships, can have social struggles other than that also, can have the peer pressure and fitting in sort of situations also. And at the same time, one cannot rule out the possibility of a major depressive disorder as well. Right, so a thorough history and evaluation should be undertaken with the correct menstrual history, and of course the metabolic parameters. A good workup of vitamins should also be understood. The eating pattern should be looked into, the physical activity and lifestyle, and also addictions. All that needs to be looked into because this is a very, very vulnerable age group. If it's a middle-aged man or a woman, or if it's a younger child, things are sort of black or gray sometimes. I mean, black or white. But in an adolescent, this age group is so delicate and so it's such a transition phase itself that one needs to be very, very careful about evaluation. So after all these, it is definitely a good idea to do a questionnaire assessment like a patient health questionnaire 9, which helps to understand whether there's depression or not. If you are in any doubt, just refer to the psychiatrist, and also subject to extensive counseling as per the psychiatrist review. But it's important to rule out major depressive disorder at this point, right? So I just wanted to show you this tricky situation, or there can be hundreds of other cases to be discussed, but we're not doing that today. Next, please. Next, please. There are other scales also that can be used, like the Beck Depression Inventory 2 or the Center for Epidemiologic Studies Depression Scale. But easiest is PHQ-9, which can be easily implemented by us. It's a self-report tool, just 9 item 1. It's a good practice to do this in a clinic with diabetologists, because again, let's understand mental health is a huge stigma. So referring directly to a psychiatrist may sometimes, the patient may never go, and we may miss the patient completely. And we may even lose the patient if the symptoms are severe. Next, please. So, this is now a happy picture, because that is the power of social connection, not missing out on an organic issue. Also understanding where only counseling or support from the family is all that is required, because literally it takes a village to deal with type 1 diabetes. And let's use all the resources we can get, whether it's family, whether it's friends, let support groups, like all the wonderful groups my type 1 community is, running. I love all of them for all the work they are doing, because it's only adding incrementally to the good work that we all are achieving. Next, please. So, and again, no self-pity, no self-victimization. You can either choose to be a victim of the world or an adventurer in search of treasure. It's really all a question of how one would view their life. And this is from one of my most favorite authors or writers, Paulo Coelho. I love what he brings to the table, very simple yet universal facts. And I think really, if it's in your being and you really desire something, then the universe does conspire to get that to you. So with that, I thank you very much again for this wonderful opportunity, and let's take this forward.
Thank you so much, Dr. Purvi. I think we had some really different yet very good insights, because here we addressed two aspects. One was, of course, for people living with type 1 diabetes, is accepting, acknowledging, and giving yourself positive affirmations. And also a very strong messaging to the healthcare professionals on how connected care is the way forward. And indeed, it takes a village to care for a person living with type 1 diabetes. And today, even to have this session, going to the next level, we do have a village here. Dr. Rutul, over to you. We also have Dr. Banshi Sabu, so we're really excited for the next part of the event.
So we are always excited as he is here, because he is main source of inspiration and motivation for everything what we are doing in type 1 diabetes. Whatever we are learning here, especially from our young generation, is just because of him, as his passion since last 5 years. We are listening him, and in his all orations are on type 1 diabetes, and this is why I'm so overwhelmed. And whenever we ask him that please join us at least for 5 minutes, and he is always here, whether he's traveling, whether he's busy in clinic or whatever, but he is always here when it is about T1D programs. So, sir, we are launching Inject Anywhere today, and I want to know your idea how impactful it could be if we do it in right way, and what is the right way to do this Inject Anywhere campaign on social media. So over to you, sir.
First of all, Rutul, thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to connect with all of you, and congratulating Empower team, empowering every type 1 across the country, whether Dr. Amit Dey, who started, and Riddhi is doing great job. And Rutul, thank you. And Purvi wonderfully talked about it. Today only I have seen one type 1, young, just detected diabetes before few months, before 2 or 3 months. And the constant tension was that, child is going to go from tomorrow to the school. They have consulted already because the mother she was detected, the child was detected type 1 at Hyderabad, and they were from Bhilwara, and they had gone to Udaipur to consult the doctor, and their constant tension, because everyone had started them on a multiple daily insulin injection. That is what the a standard of care for a type 1. And the challenge was that child is going to go from tomorrow, 1st of July, the school is going to open, and how child is going to take the injection at school. And that was a major concern for them. And since last 2 to 3 months, what other stress was, Rutul? They were worrying that nobody should know in the family that type is having type 1. So I just try to explain them, please remove this, first of all, your stress level. Your parents the child is 12-year-old, and the same with the child also, one time everyone should know that Bua, Kaki, Masi, cousin, auntie, uncle, everyone has to know once in a lifetime. Till you will not tell them, you will already have multiple times this stress of not telling everyone, and you will never able to, take it easily, or will you able to take it in injection in school or not. We have consulted almost half a day, and as you know that when I try to consult someone too much time, I convince the patient for pump. So actually convinced for the insulin pump, but still I could convince that from tomorrow only the child is going to take now 5 to 6 times. He or she is going to check the sugar multiple times, and even in school also. So what is most important thing when you have started a campaign that, a child can take injection anywhere? The first of all, the guilt of the family, because they feel that they have done something wrong, or a child has done something wrong, and that's the reason he or she had developed type 1 diabetes. So that guilt, that stress level, that should go away from them. They should not feel that someone will know. How they will feel that, your baby is having type 1, or your family member is having type 1, or someone even adult also, because other patient person is actually a Sony, who is an adult one, 32-year-old, sitting on in his shop. He does not want to take injection at his working place, because he always feel what my colleague or what my other people, they will think of taking injection. This is what inject anywhere your campaign is fantastic. It should not be only related to children, because one today only we have written one more a certificate to ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, one person who is working there in a contract basis. And in ISRO, because of security issues, they don't allow neither injection nor even a glucose meter inside the system. So we have last week, before 2 weeks, we have written a letter. Today we have to talk their company, I mean the ISRO executive, that this person is having type 1. At least you allow in an office place where you have some facility of keeping the insulin and glucose meter. So during lunchtime, now he is allowed to go to the office, check his sugar, take injection. And the one thing what I told him, this young adult, that please tell everyone around you that you have a type 1, because that's also very important. He is working as an engineer, and he may develop sometime hyperglycemia. We explain him every aspect of diabetes. So this is, I think, a very, very important initiative which is taken by Empower, and empowering every children, empowering healthcare physician, and educate them that, every child or every adult with type 1 diabetes, they should not hesitate to take injection or monitoring their sugar anywhere, whether they are at working place, whether they are in school, and they should inform either the person who is responsible, whether it's a school teacher, principal, or if they are working in some organization, their head, and everyone should know about the type 1. It's once in a lifetime you have to tell everyone, and that's, then you are free. You are free of that guilt. You don't have any stress of not telling anyone, and then you will able to inject anywhere. You will able to check your sugar everywhere, anywhere also. We also see, Rutul, sometime that in our conferences, even type 2 diabetic people also are, they are all on insulin. They also don't check the sugar because 10% of the people are diabetes. You know that adults are more, 15%, 20%, some of the adults above the age of 40, 45. And out of them, at least 10% of them must be on insulin injection. And even maybe half of them may be on multiple daily insulin injection. How many people you have seen as a doctor also in a conferences or in a places like for taking dinner, they first check their sugar and they take injection. So I think this is a inject anywhere is a initiative or empowering not just type 1, anyone who is on multiple daily insulin injection. They should not feel anywhere they can take their sugar, they can check their sugar, and pre-meal they should take their bolus as it is required for type 1, maybe for type 2, maybe for any insulin deficient person. They should not feel hesitant to take injection in front of anyone. It's not that you have done something wrong. It is God had given you and you have to accept it and try to keep your sugar as control as possible, so you will have less and less complications. So once again, congratulations, Rutul, Riddhi, Amit De, Purvi, and everyone who is involved in this project and empowering every child and every family and everyone who is insulin deficient in diabetes. It's not just for children. I think now you start taking videos of some adults, some adolescents, some type 2, and just explain everyone that they can take injection anywhere. And if possible, if some healthcare professional, I mean, if he is type 1, if she is type 1, or even someone who is on injection, they should also take positively and come out on social media that they can inject anywhere.
So we
Thank
have
you.
already taken Dr. Anushri's video and it is already viral everywhere.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you very much, sir, for wonderful words, and thank you very much for sparing the time.
I
that
will
you- and
also
I can
try
see
to,
why.
explain that guy who is working in ISRO that he can take in from the
It would
ISRO
be
place
it would
also,
be great help,
and
sir.
injecting at a workplace and where he's engineer and working in a place like a Indian Space Research Organization, taking injection in front of everyone and checking his sugar. There's so much
True.
security issue, so he has to go to office and then to check. And at least we could convince
Great.
their office staff,
Great, sir. Thank you.
at least allow him. Thank you once
Wow,
again. Thank
great,
you
great.
very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I can see you are busy and you are in car and still you are joining. Thank
I
you.
have to go one more place to give a talk, so sorry for that. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir. Very inspiring and very powerful.
Thank you, Purvi. Thank you, Riddhi. Thank you,
So
Rutul.
thank you
Thank you,
for
Amit.
sharing your
Bye-bye.
I think your powerful words have really energized everybody, and expanding this to a larger audience is something that we will definitely work towards. So we are really, really empowered.
Thank you.
Okay, I think with this we move on to our Indian type 1 hero. Thank you, Lakshmi, for patiently waiting for us. And I would like to give a short introduction, although Lakshmi doesn't need an introduction. He's India's favorite type 1 hero. He is the president of Sweet Souls Foundation at Hyderabad. He's also a very integral part of Type 1 Diabetes Foundation of India, and he really looks after the South Zone work. He's a leading global advocate now with the breakthrough T1D. And besides that, he's a professional and a marathon runner with number of awards under his sleeve. Recently, last year, Lakshmi received the ISPAD Hero Award 2024. And just for those who are new to Lakshmi, he lives with type 1 and also has a dual challenge of visual impairment. But whenever it comes to volunteering for anything with type 1 diabetes or inspiring other people, Lakshmi is always the forefront. So with that, Lakshmi, we welcome you to this session. And thank you so much for agreeing and sparing the time to join us today. We would love for you to share some of your experiences from your initial days. Like, if you could share with us how at the time of diagnosis and managing these dual challenges, like what did your life look like back then?
Thank you so much, Riddhi, for that wonderful introduction. I'm really happy to be connected. I mean, to connect here with our type 1 diabetes community and along with our healthcare professionals. Yeah, I did face challenges in my early years of type 1 diabetes after the diagnosis. It was very difficult for me to take even insulin injections on my own, even to check my glucose levels. So, like, I was not able to take use insulin syringe because I cannot see the readings on the syringe numbers. So one of the doctors introduced me to insulin pen. Then my independent diabetes management started. Even glucometer also, I explored voice enabled glucometer and sweet cells. After joining Sweet Cells Foundation gifted me that. So I'm very happily managing my diabetes on my own nowadays. And Meredith shared a lot of experiences, and she showed a video also. It was um, like, I mean, I could connect to some of the challenges that I faced after seeing that video and after from her talk as well. So even I was also going through that at times when I was not connected to the community. Sometimes even after connecting to the community also, because I cannot completely um, depend. I mean, share my challenges to visually impaired person, or sometimes even I cannot share all my challenges to even type 1 also. Like, person living with two challenges, it's slightly different. But there are, I really have amazing friends who understand both of my challenges, and I also have good doctors who and healthcare professionals who understand me in all the ways. I mean, I'm glad to have all of them. So it's not easy initially, but um, I learned over the I learned, and I read more articles, and I mean, I became a diabetes educator. Now I know how to manage my diabetes as well as my mental health and social life. So now I can easily reach out to people, and I can confidently talk what I want, what the community, type 1 diabetes community want, even whether it is CSR people or government officials.
Wonderful. Actually, Lakshmi is the driving force for many of us. And, at this point, I would like to really appreciate the way he motivates and inspires us, because he knows exactly effective communication. And like he just shared, depending on the stakeholder that we are interacting with, he knows the power of effective communication. And I think this connect comes from a very rooted and strong foundation of his self-care. Like Dr. Purvi and Meredith both have shared that, when we go through the challenges, we come back to become stronger when we have the power of connect. So he utilizes this power of connect very beautifully. And there have been mornings where I get voice messages from Lakshmi, asking me when I'm going to run the next marathon. So we are so blessed to have him in the Indian type 1 community. And he really pushes and nudges us to the next level. And he has inspired so many other type 1s to become certified diabetes educators. I remember this very distinctly. He told me that you will be a complete advocate only when you get certified, to give and more support to people living with type 1. So that is like really amazing. And another part, Lakshmi, we wanted to just ask you, how did you feel like when you were invited to ISPAD, for the award, for being the hero of the year? Like, how did you feel? Like, what was in your mind when you were going to interact with more global advocates and, the social scene? How did you feel? What was running in your mind?
Yeah, it was a wonderful opportunity to be there. So it was a great celebration, first of all, because along with me, entire Indian T1D and even healthcare community celebrated this award. And also, like, connecting with the global, I mean, it's not just India, even all the T1D advocates and healthcare professionals across the globe interacted with me there. It was a, I mean, overwhelming experience for me, and I was very happy. interacting with them. And I also participating in the conference. I also learned, see, Indian challenges are different. And maybe like it was the first time I heard it from, I mean, living there and being there. So I heard different challenges from different parts of the world, because ISPAD is international conference. I really, I mean, it was great opportunity for me from ISPAD and Diabetes Leadership Council for sponsoring that trip. I'm grateful for them, Riddhi. I'm still with many of those T1D advocates. I'm still in touch with them and interacting with them. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I think, Lakshmi, what really inspires to be a marathon runner, and we know that you have been really working on getting many more people living with type 1 to take up physical activity as a very integral part of diabetes management. And since today we are talking about the power of connect, the physical as well as mental and social, I think running or any such physical activity plays a very important role. So how has your experience been in your marathon journey?
Yeah, so all of them, physical health, mental health, and social life, all of them are interconnected. So I can clearly say that after starting my running or any other physical activity, I'm able to do a lot of tasks in a day. I'm able to wake up early, I'm able to sleep early, and I'm doing efficiently my office work as well as my passion, my life, like type 1 diabetes advocacy work. I'm able to do like all of the activities very energetically. I think all the credit goes to running. And like even my running community, ECL runners, they help me in running. And I mean, we all like start our morning with great energy, just because I mean all that credit goes to running.
That's really wonderful. And actually, these powerful reflections make us realize that, each of us have different stories, but there are certain common connects, the connection with the community, the support that we receive, and the compassion that we can show to others. That not
Yeah.
only defines that how we manage our diabetes, but how we actually have the physical, mental, and social come together.
Yes, and also just want to add one more important point. See, if you are running with type 1 diabetes, like until unless if you are managing your diabetes well, and it's like somewhere diabetes education has a greater connection for if you have to run efficiently, because you have to maintain your sugars between 100 or 110 to 170. You cannot cross 180 or 200 because you will tired quickly and you cannot run faster. You cannot run below 100 because you will tired here also, like with low energy. So if you have to manage your sugars in good range, of course you have to be a good I mean diabetes educator, or even self management, I mean diabetes self management education person.
Right.
If you don't know that, you won't be able to run faster, or you won't be able to do any other physical activity. So that's why diabetes education is very, very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think thank you for sharing your personal story and some wonderful insights on how important is the physical health. But like Dr. Purvi mentioned in her talk, we want to reiterate that the inner willpower and the mental health has to be there in the right place. And like Meredith has highlighted, how we can have the social connect, because the community is the one who's going to push you, motivate you to achieve these difficult targets. Right. So we've actually heard some very interesting stories, but I know with nearing our timeline, getting closer to the end of the session, I would like to invite all speakers again to share one message before we sign off. And it'll be nice to have you all again together to share one takeaway.
Yeah.
We'll start with Meredith.
Oh, my personal takeaway and ask and call to action is again to just take one step towards helping yourself and helping others be connected, because we can thrive and take power over our health.
Yes, Dr. Purvi.
So I would say that a man is a social being, and don't forget the power of ask. So ask if you need help and get all the help that you need, whether professionally or socially. Uh, the power of connection really needs to be, well estimated and not underestimated.
Yes, Lakshmi, would you like to share something?
Yes, yes. So, I mean, I want to take some, energy points from both of, Dr. Purvi's speech as well as Meredith's speech, and then I want to call entire T1D community and healthcare community. Let's reach out to more T1s, and let's also impart diabetes education in among every, not just T1Ds, and also healthcare professionals and their families, so that we will reach and we'll manage type 1 diabetes effectively throughout the country. Thank you, Dr. Banshi. Thank you, Dr. Archana ma'am, our lovely T1 mom. We all call her T1 mom. So thank you so much for the wonderful opportunity, and dearest friend Riddhi, for being always being there and supporting me and all the T1D community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful experience sharing. And I think this was a very nice topic. I mean, usually for our monthly webinars, we do the scientific sessions, but today we've also understood the science behind connection. So with this, we come to wrap up the session, and we are all going to go home with some really nice positive affirmations. To the audience for sparing the time to be there today with us, to everyone watching this session, remember, you're not alone. You're never alone. We are part of this wonderful community together. We are part of this growth journey together. And reach out, check in with people more often, have conversations, ask for help, and together let's thrive with type 1. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you again for having us.